I'm here with Liz Manashil, and I'm so grateful for her taking time out of her day. We start off on a good note by having her favorite salsa place deliver every bit of comfort right now that we could get is a big plus in our lives, right? And I would like to ask you, let's start at the beginning. How did you start on your journey to being a director?
It's a really nerdy story. I was in a film class and I had wanted to be an actor. It's like everyone wants to be an actor. I think it's an amazing profession. And I took this film class about Francois Truffaut. And I saw this one movie called Stolen Kisses. And for some reason, I had this epiphany while watching the movie. And I thought to myself, I want to do that. I want to be the person who makes the movie instead of the person in front of the camera. And all my passion for acting weirdly like disappeared overnight. And I became just really obsessive over the concept of becoming a director. And so I went to film school. I made as many shorts as possible, and then made my first feature 2 years after film school.
Wow. Congratulations. And that was Bread and Butter
Yes.
was your first feature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was delighted by the movie on so many levels. Yeah, no, seriously. First of all, just your natural vision of letting the characters unfold. How did you develop that? What influenced you? Do you base them on real people in your life? Just on your characters, if you could speak about them.
I always write from life. When I was a kid, all my siblings were a lot older than me. So I was alone a lot, and I have just a very vivid imagination that grew out of that. So I used to like play out scenarios in my bedroom alone. So I think a lot of writing is just an extension of that. Just like, what would happen if this, and what scene would I enjoy being in? But a lot of the relationships scenes and themes are from almost verbatim fights that I've had, relationships that I've had, inspired by men and women that I know. And then just the style came out of the fact that when I was a kid, like fairly lonely kid, I watched a lot of movies, and I feel like they set me up for disappointment in a weird way, because everything was packaged so tightly and cleanly that I just decided when I made my movies, I wouldn't. They just look a little bit more normal than other movies. And I always try to have normal body types and neurotic characters, because that's what I am and what I know.
No, like it is very refreshing to see. I hope everyone goes out and watches Bread and Butter. Where do we find it? Yeah, no, it's just so, yeah, your casting, everything is just really refreshing. It's, yeah, you can tell it's not like I must get the model types, because everybody looks like that, us all the time, right? And
you can see it anywhere. I mean, it used to be on Hulu. It was on Hulu for a few years, and then that deal expired. So now it's on like Amazon and iTunes and Google Play. It's not on Netflix or anything like that, but it's on Amazon Prime.
What I'm sure, kind of jumping around a little bit because I want this to be informative for other women, to get inspired and go out there and do the same, and have their vision be seen in the world. How did you go about, casting and financing? If you just want to give a quick synopsis or, a bit of advice for people who are looking to make their first feature.
I crowdfunded my first two features, and the revenue from my first feature went into the budget of my second feature. And what I do is basically based entirely around my resources. I crowdfunded, $36,000, which is a lot to crowdfund, but it was back in 2012 when that was a little bit more feasible than it is right now. And I think the the pieces of advice I give are: one, write to your resources, write a script, have a line producer break it down to see how much it would cost, and then find out what's most expensive and then cut those things and rewrite to get the budget lower and lower and lower. And so write to your resources, and then do whatever you can't afford to hire. So I couldn't afford a casting director. I had a lot of meetings with casting directors, and I would tell them the budget, and they wouldn't work for my rates, and which were insulting. They were insulting rates. So I mean, like, I could not blame them for not taking the work. So I had cast projects in film school, so I just cast it myself, and I learned through trial and error what you're supposed to do. So I guess when if the goal is empowerment, then what I would say is, there's a lot that you can learn by taking on that burden yourself, and ultimately independent filmmaking is doing everything yourself anyway. I mean, no one's going to care about the film as much as you do, so you're going to end up doing the majority of the work regardless. You might as well save money while you do it.
I heard once someone say that, your film is your baby, so you have to feed your baby every day.
Oh, I love that. I get that. I think I always compare filmmaking to having a kid. I have one son, and it was shocking. I mean, everyone asked me what's harder, having a child or making a movie, and like having a child's way harder. So it's like hard to compare the two, but there is something about you're parenting, you're nurturing, and the movie doesn't end when you release it. Just like a baby doesn't, you don't stop caring for the baby after you push it out of your nether regions. You have to nurture and market and distribute, just like you have to caretake and lead and parent a child or a pet or family member, whatever it is that you're birthing.
Wonderful. Yeah. What do you say? Because I know there has to be moms out there that are saying, oh, wow, you're a mom too, and I have aspirations of being a filmmaker too. How do you balance your creative life with your domestic side?
It's really hard. I think it was hard enough to be a filmmaker and not be a mom, because I think all of us, whether we're whatever your job is, you're doing something, you're working, whether it's freelance or you're paying the bills in some way, and it's very hard to pile something on top of that. Found when I have a kid, you can't predict your schedule, and so it's very hard to feel like secure and sane in like a plan. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to write tomorrow at 8 a.m. because your kid is probably going to wake up at 7:55. As soon as you say it, say the plan out loud, it gets ruined. So what I've done on this, I'm in pre-production on my third feature. And what I've done actually is I brought on my partner to co-direct. He's a director, and he's wonderful. He's also an actor. He plays characters in all my films, and he's on board to co-direct. And all the things that I think I need to learn from, I'm learning from him. And then all my strengths I get to proceed with in this project. But other than that, I think allow yourself a lot of time. When I had my kid, everyone said, you'll be out of the game for 2 years. And it is gonna end up that way, unfortunately. It kind of, for that first year, it's really impossible to do anything unless you have a lot of support. So I would say it can be done. There are a lot of working parents, but to give yourself a break, because I think women are very hard on themselves and they put a lot of pressure on themselves. And you don't have to get it done tomorrow. You can take time to be with your family. And then when your schedule opens up, you can make the project then. I hope that doesn't sound defeatist, but I just think that's hard to do so much at the same time.
Yeah, no, and I think that's so valuable, set up a support system for yourself, Ironically, it'll sound weird. No I in film.
Yeah. Yes, it's true. It's very true.
And yeah, and relieve that pressure, because then I believe the work suffers as well as your emotional and physical well-being, you know.
That's a great point. And I think being able to just say, no, I can't right now is really important. And this goes for parents and non-parents, but I think a lot of artists, but I think a lot of women in particular will say yes to things that they don't need to say yes to, that they can set boundaries and they could say, not right now, maybe next week. And I think that goes for being a parent too. You could just say, I need this time. I need this time for myself right now.
Yes, the importance of setting boundaries, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Speed of Life too, your second feature. Just a treasure. I don't want to give it away for people. I know it's on Showtime. They can go see it. Right. Would you like to, just give a description of it a little bit out there? It's better in your words than in mine. So yeah.
Thank you. The log line gives away the big twist, right? But it's the idea that what if a couple's fighting and let me phrase this better. So it's like, what happens if David Bowie's death creates a wormhole in a couple's apartment? And that's like I guess the inciting incident. I don't know. I'm really horrible at screenwriting terms, but it's what like propels the majority of the plot is David Bowie's death ripped like a hole in the fabric of the universe and inspired our story, which is really more like a romantic dramedy with like this weird science fiction backdrop that is a little unearned, to be fair, but is a lot of fun to talk about because David Bowie touched us all.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. No, you hit a big nugget of truth there. Yeah, that whole year, 2016, and him that was, yeah.
Tough times. I mean, 2020 is pretty bad too. I would say, a lot worse, but 2016 felt like a lot of things changed. And we're not, we're not overtly political in our film, but we do allude to the fact that like it feels like the country got even more divisive, and there were like a lot of celebrity deaths that impacted with Prince and David Bowie and like Alan Rickman, and like there's like a long list of a lot of men for some reason who died, who really impacted our culture. So yeah, it was a tough time.
Yeah, it's still all in transition. Yes. Which I just think, look at how essential the art is, what's keeping us all sane,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like to, I saw the Easter egg that you put in that film. Are you going to continue that trend? The nod to Bread and Butter?
Oh, I'm trying to think. Do you mean so you might not. Okay, so there's like a bunch of things. We like create like a weird universe. My partner and I, he always likes to put in little cameos. So I'm trying to think of, you don't mean the beer bottle. No one else notices the beer bottle. What?
I noticed the TV.
Oh, okay. Yeah. They're playing Bread and Butter and the bed. Yes. Sorry. Of course. That is the Easter egg. So there's like a few other things like, there's like a beer brand that we created in Bread and Butter that we now want to use for every single film. What else is there? There's just like certain like props that we bring from one production to another. And then my partner played Riley in Bread and Butter, and he plays Philip in Speed of Life. So we're trying to create a really esoteric cinematic universe that no one pays attention to other than ourselves.
That's fabulous. Yeah, no, it adds to the layering, What's your rehearsal process like? I'm really curious. Do you give actors that opening for improvisation, or are you more stick to the script? This is what I wrote. Is there a marriage between the two?
I usually don't get a rehearsal just because I'm not blessed with the resources for a rehearsal. Like I don't get, like with Speed of Life, we didn't get to meet Anne till a few days into our production. So we would have phone calls. And Anne is the type of person who, Anne Dowd, who memorizes her lines you know, every single line was very specific. I remember I tried to tell her that I was going to change one of the character names, and she got very not upset because she's undoubted, she's a treasure, but she was like, don't you dare do that. I've been like talking to this person for weeks. So she had her own process where she was rehearsing on her own. On set, we'll do a walkthrough for camera, and that's like the most we get in terms of rehearsal. We might get to do a read through in the green room. With Bread and Butter, my two, Micah Hauptman, who played Leonard, and Chrissy Weatherup lived in LA. So we got to have a few rehearsals, and that was lovely. And then Chrissy and I did my probably favorite thing that I've done with an actor, which is she had a binder, and we went through the entire script, and she graphed the emotionality of the character. She was like, how am I feeling here? This is how I'm reading it. How do you interpret it? And it was fabulous just to like quantify, to picture exactly the ups and the downs of the character, because with Bread and Butter, the entire film was resting on her shoulders, and her emotional state was like the most important part of it. And that was her idea. So, and, you know, I did theater in high school and college. I love theater. I would rehearse for weeks if I could, but I've never had that like luxury. So you just kind of like accept it. And I've found that the quality of the actors I'm working with they're way more experienced than I am. So like, it's almost like, what am I going to say to them? Like, do it again. But like what adjustment am I going to give them? Like, they always knock it out of the park anyway.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it shows you can have that communication, and it's okay to hire, like, even, you know, for people on their first feature, they could reach out to somebody who's an experienced actor with a couple of films under their belt and still have that confidence that they could in tandem.
I think most directors are less experienced than the actors they work with. I mean, I just feel like most actors are on set after set after set. They're dealing with really inept directors, really fantastic directors. Like, they're dealing with just like an entire massive range of characters and control freaks. And like, I think of it as like, get out of the way. Like, when I'm on set, it's like, get out of the way. I'm learning that that's what directing is. I thought growing up and in film school, I was supposed to shape and foster, but really it's like, just watch. And if something feels really wrong, then correct it or adjust it or say your piece. But for the most part, I feel like directors slow down the process. You have so many like amazing people who know what they're doing, and the director just wants to hear themselves talk sometimes.
Awesome. Did you ever have any backlash in being a female director at all? Any kind of obstacles?
Never. Which I know sounds crazy in our climate, but the way I explain it and how I rationalize it is that I've always held the purse strings. I always produce my features that I direct, and I'm there from inception to release. I'm there from the very beginning to the end. I speak with, I remember I was a PA on a set once, and I was the only girl, and we were on a location at like, I don't know, it was like a bowling alley or something. And like a random stranger who had nothing to do with the production went up to me because they thought I was the director. I don't know what I look like. Directors, a lot of me as a director, I don't understand how to hold the sandbag properly. I don't understand how to Hollywood a flag. I don't understand, like, I look like someone who should be a director because they can't be helpful in any other way. So what I'm saying is I fit into that role because, this is going so poorly, Heather. What I'm trying to say is I have enough power financially where no one's ever disrespecting me because, again, I've controlled the budget. But I also want to say that, like, I wouldn't be capable in any other role on a film set. So like, no one would ever think I'm the makeup girl because I don't know how to tweeze my eyebrows, and no one knows how to like, no one would would confuse me for another role because I just look like a neurotic person who's getting in everyone's business. But yeah, I have not experienced any kind of disrespect as a director. I was on a movie review show for a few years. It was on Hulu, and I was on camera as a film critic, and I had people dress me up, put me in push-up bras, tell me that I had to wear one bra and versus another because my breasts look better on camera.
Wow.
I've had people tell me that I was mothering them on a set. Like, I've had things like that happen, but not when I was a feature director or producer.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that in itself is empowering. You said it, you hold the purse strings. So yeah, respect where the
money's coming from.
Yeah. At the end of the day, sadly, sometimes that's what's.
Yeah, not that always solves the problem. And also,
right.
I'm pretty adamant that I meet every single person who's going to come on one of my sets. And I have a policy called the no asshole policy.
Nice.
And it's just like, you meet them and you're like, are they an asshole? Like, and you ask every department head, they're like, I want you to bring on who you want, but like, be positive. They're not an asshole. And for some reason that's helped a lot too.
Vetting people beforehand.
Yeah. Doing the asshole test. Yeah.
And you said you're in pre-production for your third feature. Do you want to reveal anything? Is it too early?
Oh, no, I'm always revealing things. It's called Lady Parts. It's the first thing I've never written. It's the first thing I was brought on to direct that I didn't write. And it's called Lady Parts, and the story is a woman is at risk for she's the BRCA2 gene.
Yeah.
So she's at risk for ovarian, breast, uterine, like a lot of different types of cancers. And in our very dark, absurd comedy, she gets those organs removed and they start talking to her. So it's a puppet cancer comedy where we have a puppet ovaries and puppet fallopian tubes and puppet cervixes, and it's all about her navigating her dysfunctional family in the midst of having this surgery where all these parts have been removed from her body. And I'm really, really excited about it. I think puppets are really fun. And I've never seen a movie that's like this. Like, you would never see a movie where there's a puppet uterus. I don't think. I haven't. So I think it's exciting to like force like bros to look at puppet uteruses. So or uteri.
Wow, no, that's really original. Yeah. I mean, right? Isn't that what everyone wants at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's zany. And I've learned through this that like, if I'm being brought on to direct, that I can set those boundaries again, and I can say, I'm not producing. Like, I will help you find a producer, but I'm not producing. And a lot of directors produce out of necessity sometimes. And I think it's important that if you don't want to do it, you can also set those boundaries and say, no, I just want to be a director this time.
That's fabulous. I think that's a great part to say thank you. Thank you for your interview. Thank you for sharing your vision with the world.
Thank you. Thank you for watching the movies.
Oh, and I thought they were great. No, like I said, you have such an original vision. You know, everything is very naturalistic in its unfolding. Like you said, there's no, I don't want to give away endings for people, but it's not like, oh, he completes me and that's it. So I think it's empowering in itself just to watch your films, in addition to talking to you and hearing your story. I can't say enough good things.